Ever wonder why you're waiting years for the next season of Stranger Things or The Last of Us? Why shows like Wednesday drop a killer first season, then vanish for ages? And why do these seasons, with fewer episodes than ever, cost as much as a blockbuster movie? Welcome to the Game of Thrones fever, a seismic shift in TV that's turned your favorite series into cinematic juggernauts, burning through insane budgets and leaving fans hanging. But here's the kicker. This obsession with outdoing Game of Thrones is breaking the industry, sidelining writers, and killing promising shows before they even get a chance. Let's unpack this mess and figure out why modern TV feels like a dragon-sized gamble. Let's start with the dragon in the room, Game of Thrones. When it premiered in 2011, it didn't just tell a story. It rewrote the rules of television. HBO spent $50 to $60 million on its first season, averaging $6 million per episode. By the final season, each episode cost $15 million, with battles like The Long Night taking 55 days to shoot. The result? A cultural juggernaut that pulled in 43 million viewers per episode and added 10 million subscribers to HBO in a single season. Game of Thrones wasn't just a show. It was a flex, a cinematic spectacle that made networks and streaming platforms drool. But here's where it gets wild. Game of Thrones set a new bar. Suddenly, every studio wanted their own epic. Amazon dropped $462 million on The Rings of Power Season 1. That's $58 million per episode, not counting the $250 million they paid for Tolkien's rights. HBO's House of the Dragon clocks in at just under $20 million per episode. Netflix? They're shelling out $30 million per episode for Stranger Things Season 4. These aren't TV shows anymore. They're mini-movies, each season rivaling the budget of Avengers Endgame. Streaming wars. Netflix, Amazon, Disney+, and HBO Max are in a cutthroat race to dominate your screen. Game of Thrones proved that big budgets equal big buzz, big subscribers, and big profits. $3.1 billion in HBO subscriptions alone. So, studios are throwing cash at dragons, spaceships, and interdimensional monsters to outdo each other. But this arms race comes at a cost. Longer production times, fewer episodes, and seasons that take years to arrive. So, why does it take 3 years for Stranger Things Season 5 or The Last of Us Season 3, slated for 2028? It's not just laziness. Modern TV production is a beast. Let's break it down into the 8 key stages of making a high-budget series inspired by Game of Thrones. Pre-production. This is where the madness begins. Writers craft scripts, directors storyboard, and studios greenlight budgets. For Stranger Things, scripts are finalized months in advance because every scene needs to be meticulously planned for CGI-heavy sequences like Vecnos attacks. This stage alone can take 6 to 12 months, especially if writers are rewriting to match studio demands for bigger moments. Location scouting and set design. Shows like The Last of Us film across continents. Canada, Spain, you name it. Finding post-apocalyptic locations or building Westeros-style castles takes months. Game of Thrones used Northern Ireland, Iceland, and Croatia, boosting local economies by $224 million, but requiring complex logistics. Casting and rehearsals. Actors like Pedro Pascal or Millie Bobby Brown aren't just hired. They're locked into multi-year contracts. But as Stranger Things kids grow up, reshoots or script tweaks are needed to account for their aging, adding time. Filming. This is the big one. Game of Thrones' Battle of the Bastards needed 25 days, 600 crew, 500 extras, and 70 horses. The Last of Us Season 2 reportedly faced delays due to complex action scenes. Filming can take 6 to 12 months for a single season. Post-production, CGI, and editing. Here's where 4K and CGI jack up costs and timelines. Rendering a single second of a Game of Thrones dragon takes 10,800 computer hours, costing $7,000. Stranger Things is Upside Down, or Wednesday's monster effects demand months of VFX work. 4K cameras catch every detail, so makeup, costumes, and sets need to be flawless, driving up expenses. Sound design and scoring. Epic shows need epic soundtracks. Think Hans Zimmer for the Pacific or Ramin Djawadi for Game of Thrones. This stage, while faster, still takes months for perfection. Marketing. Trailers, posters, and social media campaigns start early to build hype. House of the Dragon's premiere drew 10 million viewers partly due to HBO's marketing machine. This adds months to the timeline. Distribution and release. Streaming platforms stagger releases to maximize subscriptions, sometimes delaying seasons to avoid competing with their own shows. Each stage is budgeted meticulously, with a production supervisor ensuring costs don't spiral. But when you're spending $25 million per episode on WandaVision or $15 million on The Last of Us, every delay, whether actor schedules or VFX bottlenecks, adds months. And when seasons drop years apart, fans lose interest, and shows like The Wheel of Time risk cancellation despite solid starts. Now, let's talk about the unsung heroes, writers. Back in the Friends or Breaking Bad era, writers could tweak scripts on the fly. If a Friends joke flopped, they'd rewrite it during rehearsal. Breaking Bad's writers adjusted scenes based on actor chemistry. But today, scripts for Stranger Things or The Last of Us are locked before filming starts. Why? Because studios need every dollar accounted for in pre-production to justify those $20 to $30 million episode budgets. Spontaneity is dead. Worse, writers are under insane pressure. Unlike actors or directors, most TV writers are freelancers, only paid when they're on a project. No project, no paycheck. The 2023 WGA strike highlighted this. Writers demanded better residuals and job security because streaming giants like Netflix and Amazon treat them as disposable. Game of Thrones writers David Benioff and D.B. Weiss faced backlash for rushing the final season, partly because HBO pushed for a quick wrap to pivot to House of the Dragon. This pressure leads to hollow stories. Think Game of Thrones Season 8 or The Wheel of Time's uneven pacing, because writers are forced to churn out scripts under tight deadlines. Contrast this with Apple TV Plus, which offers writers fixed salaries for stability. This lets them focus on quality, not survival. But most platforms don't do this, so writers lose motivation to craft intricate sequels. Why pour your soul into a show like Wednesday when you might not get paid for years between seasons? This is why many series feel empty. The heart of storytelling gets crushed by corporate demands for spectacle over substance. The Game of Thrones fever isn't just about budgets, it's about what those budgets buy. Spectacle. Fans expect dragon battles, zombie hordes, or multiverse magic, and studios deliver. But spectacle is pricey. A single CGI dragon shot in Game of Thrones cost $80,000. Stranger Things Season 4's VFX-heavy episodes ate up $30 million each, partly why it was split into two parts. 4K technology makes things worse. Every pore, costume stitch, or set flaw is visible, so makeup and production design costs skyrocket. WandaVision's retro-to-modern transitions demanded meticulous editing, pushing its budget to $25 million per episode. This obsession with visual perfection delays production. CGI teams need months to render scenes, and 4K editing is a nightmare. Any mistake, like a coffee cup in Game of Thrones, becomes a viral meme. Studios can't afford goofs, so they double-check everything, adding time. And when seasons take years, actors age out of roles. The Stranger Things kids are adults now, forcing writers to rewrite scripts or use CGI to de-age them, which costs even more.
Master's my friend. You don't have any friends. Nobody likes you.
Here's the brutal truth. The Game of Thrones fever is killing shows. Fans won't start a series like Stranger Things if it takes a decade to finish. A 30-year-old who started watching in 2016 is pushing 40 by Season 5. Long gaps mean lower viewership for Season 1, which studios use to gauge a show's viability. If numbers drop, shows get axed. The Wheel of Time had a loyal fanbase, but struggled against the Rings of Power's hype, and Amazon quietly scaled back promotion. Shadow and Bone got canned after 2 seasons despite a cliffhanger. His Dark Materials wrapped up, but its budget couldn't sustain HBO's expectations post-Game of Thrones. Streaming platforms are ruthless. They analyze data obsessively, watch time, completion rates, subscriber growth. If a show doesn't pull Game of Thrones level numbers, it's on the chopping block. And with seasons costing $200 to $400 million, studios can't afford to take risks. So, promising projects sleep forever, leaving fans with unresolved stories and a bitter taste. Is there a way out of this mess? Maybe. Advances in AI and CGI could cut costs. Think virtual sets like The Mandalorian's volume, which slashes location expenses. Apple TV Plus fixed writer salaries could inspire better scripts and faster turnarounds. Studios could also lean into shorter seasons with tighter stories, like Severance, instead of chasing Game of Thrones a sprawl. Fans need to adjust expectations too. Less obsession with dragon battles, more love for character-driven stories. But studios must stop treating writers like cogs. Pay them consistently, give them creative freedom, and we might see fewer rushed finales or canceled gems. The Game of Thrones fever showed what's possible, but it also exposed the industry's limits. It's time to balance spectacle with storytelling, because no one wants to wait 5 years for a season that flops. The Game of Thrones fever changed TV forever. Bigger budgets, crazier visuals, and a streaming war that's left us waiting years for our favorite shows. But it's also strained writers, ballooned costs, and killed promising series. So, what's next? Will The Last of Us Season 3 or Stranger Things Season 5 deliver? Or are we chasing a dragon that doesn't exist? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What's the longest you've waited for a season? And was it worth it? Hit that like button if you're fed up with the wait, and subscribe for more deep dives into why TV is the way it is. Until next time, keep streaming, but maybe don't hold your breath for that next season.